Ha! Steam Greenlight's finally closing. It's not like anything good came from that server. Rivals of Ether, Crosscode, Duelist, The Vagrant, Five Nights at Freddy's, Risk of Rain, Halcyon 6, Honey Pop, 100% Orange Juice, Shovel Knight, Rabbi Greeby, Haiti, Freedom Planet. What's up guys, it's me Zero to Make It Sooner, and today we're talking about the end of Steam Greenlight. Now, do I think this is good or bad? I'm gonna go ahead and say it at the very beginning of the video. It seems like a good thing. And personally, I don't really care about the dribble that's released through Steam Greenlight, because first of all, we have the refund system now, so thank God if you run into a broken game, you can just refund it. But also part of me is like, I don't think there is a huge amount of harm from, these terrible games. Actually, what ends up happening is that obviously the creators make money whenever someone buys their game for like $1.50, and also other people make money off the Steam card system. And maybe I'm just not knowledgeable on it, but I don't really see a downside on that. You could probably argue the exposure, but to me, Steam is a global storefront at this point. Exposure based purely on your game being on Steam is gonna be non-existent regardless of whether or not shovelware is on the platform. But what I want to do with this video is just look at 3 key lines in the little discussion thing they put up announcing this, and I'll also link that in the description below. But let's go ahead and get started with that. First of all, Greenlight also exposes 2 key problems we still need to address: improving the entire pipeline for bringing new content to Steam, and finding more ways to connect consumers with the types of content they wanted. With this line, I'm actually surprised they did not bring up the problems with bad or broken games at all, and I really think that is the biggest thing people have a problem with when it comes to Greenlight, and they just completely ignored it. So that was a little bit weird. The other thing is connecting consumers with content they want. A noble idea, but I think it's a bit difficult to improve. The discovery queue system that they implemented a while back, I think it works. What I use it for is simply, I go into discovery queue maybe once a month, I'm not gonna lie, I don't check that thing that often, and scroll through it, and instead of hitting the follow or the add to wishlist, I don't bother with any of that. I simply copy and paste the name of the game that's in the queue that I liked from its cover art or its brief description, go to YouTube, see if I can find a let's play of it. That will tell me whether or not this game's worth any sort of action to put on it. So I don't know, I feel like Steam by itself can't do much more. It's more on to the consumer at this point to really look for the information, and maybe other sites and other services could create a sort of curation system so that you can put in the title's name and then just go from there. I don't know, there are probably better ways on it that I just haven't thought of. Moving on to the next line that I thought was interesting is actually what they're going to replace the system with. This new path, which we're calling Steam Direct, is targeted for spring 2017 and will replace Steam Greenlight. We will ask new developers to complete a set of digital paperwork, personal or company verification, and tax documents similar to the process of applying for a bank account. Once set up, developers will pay a recoupable application fee for each new title they wish to distribute, which is intended to decrease the noise in the submission pipeline. So Steam Greenlight approvals were curated, so I want to throw that out there. A lot of people are like, Steam's completely uncurated. No, it's just mostly uncurated. This will not be curated at all. I'm kind of happy about that, because the idea of a single human being or a set of people, yes, it has the good points of they can look in and see if a product is garbage and just cut it right there, but it also allows them to throw in their own biases to decide whether or not to cut a project down. What comes to mind is the controversy with Hatred, a meh game to be honest, but surrounded by a whole ton of backlash and a ton of hate that it didn't really deserve, and it actually got removed from Steam Greenlight. Of course, it came back and, you know, the game was sold and everyone figured out the game was kind of boring, but that's against the point. Just the idea that someone can look at it and be like, you know what? I personally don't think you're right. Not for your gameplay, but because of my own opinions. Gone. I don't like that. So I like that level of removing the curation, but again, uncurated filth begets a bunch of shovelware. So yeah. Then you have the fact that to counteract that is the fee is now going to be the gate. They're going to have an application fee that you have to go in per game, and that could decrease the amount of shovelware, but it depends on the price, and that is the third line I want to really bring up. We talked to several developers and studios about an appropriate fee, and they gave us a range response from as low as $100 to as high as $5,000. There are pros and cons at either end of the spectrum, so we'd like to gather more feedback before settling in on a number. Okay, to be clear, I do not care about the big budget studios when it comes to this, nor do I actually care about the shovelware sellers. All I care about is the honest little guy who just wants to make a video game and sell it. So I'm for that I don't care what the price is as long as it doesn't hurt that little guy right there. And the problem with this is, since it's trying to cut back on shovelware, the question is, how profitable are shitty Steam games? Because you have this whole economy with selling a shitty Steam game at an incredibly low price, like 25-50 cents, and a ton of people buy it because they want the Steam cards inside the game so they can sell them and make a profit, and it's a more complicated thing than I have time for in this video. But that really raises the question, how profitable is that whole setup they have going on there? Are they gonna have to set the bar at 1,000 plus? Because personally, I'd like it to be $100 because it'll be per game they release. So $100 going in, you're a fresh game developer, you've never made a video game before, and you probably don't have much money going into this project. $100 is safe, because if you go too high, then it's just gonna bar that first project. Once you get your first product off the floor and you have a community around you, B, you have actually made some money, then you can start having some sort of gateway that you had to put in money to, because you have the money. But the little guy who's just starting out doesn't. So I hope that the fee ends up being as low as possible. I don't know. But at the end of the day, this seems like an okay system, despite the fact that this is honestly Valve once again throwing up their hands and saying, okay, let it be someone else's job. Because like I said at the very beginning, the Steam Greenlight system apparently was curated. The actual games that got released onto Steam were picked by employees, from the way I've seen it. From the way I've done my little research and stuff, it has been curated. Maybe the things that make it onto Steam Greenlight in the first place aren't curated, but the things that go from Greenlight to Steam are. And they've basically kind of removed that middleman, and I'm kind of like, what? But, maybe leave your thoughts in the comment section. Tell me whether or not you think this is a good idea for them to throw up their hands, whether or not you think Steam Greenlight should have stayed, or whether or not, I don't know, this project's gonna bomb and they just don't do it like they did with paid mods. Who knows? Either way, I'll see you next time.